friends, I am so excited to finally sit down and chat with you about the books that I couldn't stop thinking about in 2024, which was my most successful reading year ever. I started the year off with a goal of reading 10 books and I ended up reading 44. What the heck? I know we're already a few weeks into the new year, but I really wanted to take my time with this list and share with you some of the books that really stuck with me. Also, I did just share my January TBR over on Instagram last week, so if you're at all curious about what I'm planning to read this month, feel free to check it out. And the most exciting news, I finally started my very own cozy little book club on Fable. Everyone has already voted for our first read, and I could not be more excited. So if you want to read with me and some friends this year, I will leave all of that info in the description below. And now with all of that out of the way, let's get into my top 10 books of 2024. Let's kick things off with The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This was a 5-star thriller for me and I still think about it constantly. This book was such a ride. It is set on a super eerie, crumbling mansion on a cliff where years ago, almost an entire family was killed except for one person who might not be as innocent as she seems, or maybe she is? I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for you, but the whole vibe is so unsettling in the best way. And every time I thought I had things figured out, it was like, boom, another twist. You're wrong, another twist. And that is actually why I asked for the physical copy for Christmas, so that I could have another chance to reread it and try to catch things that I might have missed the first time around. So I would say if you like thrillers that keep you guessing until the very last page, add this to your list immediately. Next up is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller, and this was another 5-star read for me. I could not put this one down. I read it over the summer and it was just such a fun read. It is a YA fantasy about Alosa, the daughter of the infamous Pirate King, who lets herself get captured on purpose to sneak onto the enemy ship to find a hidden map. And Alosa is a confident but slightly morally gray, but also very fierce and clever main lead. And honestly, she's just living her best life messing with the crew that kidnapped her. And the banter between her and the first mate Raiden is everything. I found myself giggling at their back and forth and the tension. Chef's kiss. It's fast-paced, adventurous, and a little bit flirty. It never takes itself too seriously, and it's just one of those books that feel like a fun action movie. And as soon as I finished it, I immediately ordered the sequel, and before I could finish the sequel, I ordered the third book, and I now currently have the first 2 books in paperback on my bookshelf and the third one pre-ordered because I just want it on my shelf. I've already read all 3 of them, and I love them, but I just need all 3 on my shelf together as a family, you know? Okay, next we have The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Lori Gilmore. This is the second book in the Dream Harbor series, and I liked it a lot better than I did the first book. It's my favorite of the series so far. I feel like it's so much better than the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I gave this one 4.25 stars, and it really is as cozy as the title makes it sound. It's got small town vibes, a charming bookstore, and a romance that felt very organic and sweet. And I usually avoid spice in books. It's just not my thing personally, but I found that the writing really balanced emotional depth and intimacy so well that I didn't really mind. So there's that. This story follows Hazel, who works in the cutest little bookstore that feels like it's straight out of a Hallmark movie. And one day she finds hidden notes tucked under random books. And so obviously curiosity takes over and she ends up convincing Noah, the local fisherman, who is charming in that annoyingly perfect kind of way. She convinces him to help her figure out who is behind the notes. And as they dig deeper, the 2 of them get closer because of course they do, and it just turns into this really sweet and cozy romance with a little bit of mystery sprinkled in. Next up is House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. I gave this 4.25 stars, and this one feels like a hug in book form. It is about a caseworker named Linus who works with magic magical children and is sent to an orphanage on an island to assess the children there and their caretaker. It is funny, it's sweet, it's heartwarming, it's everything. It's funny, it's sweet, it's heartwarming, but it also touches on acceptance and chosen family in the best way. It's funny, it's sweet, it's heartwarming, but it also touches on acceptance and chosen family in such a beautiful way. The descriptions can be a little bit heavy, which I tend to struggle with, but this was written so beautifully that honestly, I didn't struggle at all. And plus the characters are so charming that they make everything worth it. Once you read this book, you will fall in love with the kids. They are the best. They're so funny. And one of my favorite characters is Lucy, short for Lucifer. He's just, I can't even explain how much I love Lucy. I miss these characters a lot. I laughed, I cried, and I immediately wanted to read the sequel, which I just got on Libby, so I will definitely be reading that this month. So if you want a book that feels like a hug, I absolutely recommend The House in the Cerulean Sea. Rounding things out is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This was another 5-star read from me, and it was absolutely one of my favorite books of the year. I would say it would make top 5, maybe even top 3. I don't know. It's so hard to rank all these books, but this one is definitely up there. The story follows Dora, who has been cursed to have only half a soul, which, as you can imagine, makes things a little complicated when it comes to emotions and fitting in with high society. But then she meets Elias, this grumpy but powerful magician who's busy saving England from magical disasters. Somehow they end up working together to try and figure out what is causing this strange illness that is affecting all the children in the town, or the ton, if you will. It's got that fairy tale vibe, but it's also very grounded at the same time, and it's got magic, a little bit of romance, and just that perfect mix of whimsy and heart. Half a Soul feels so personal to me. Dora's experience with only having half a soul was actually very reminiscent of my experience as an autistic person. There were so many moments in this book that I had to pause and reread certain quotes because they just hit so hard. Her struggle with expressing emotions and masking and feeling misunderstood all the time just felt so real and validating and just very relatable. But beyond that, this book is just so magical and heartwarming. The romance is sweet and subtle and the kind that makes you smile and giggle and twirl your hair and kick your feet. It's just so cute. It's the sweetest romance I've read, I think, all year. I love this book, and honestly it just means so much to me. And if you end up liking it as much as I did, I can tell you that the next book in the series is just as delightful. And let me tell you about it because it's also in my top 10. The second book in the Regency Fairy Tale series by Olivia Atwater is 10,000 Stitches. This was another 5-star read for me, and I just adore Olivia's writing. This one is set in the same world as Half a Soul, so it continues to have that same cozy, whimsical feel. It is a Cinderella-inspired story about Effie, a housemaid who is quietly in love with the gentleman that she works for, but because he's so out of her social class, it's not necessarily something that she can act upon. And that is where Lord Blackthorn steps in. He is a fairy godfather, if you will. He is just the sweetest, silliest little guy, okay? He's so bad at human problems, but even with that, he steps in to try and help Effie get the gentleman to fall in love with her. But of course, fairy magic is never that simple, and so things get messy in the absolute best way. There's a little bit of a love triangle, kind of, but it's more fun than it is frustrating, and the whole book just feels magical and heartwarming, so it's worth it. And honestly, sometimes I just want to read something that feels like comfort food, and Olivia, she delivers every single time. And also, not anything to do with the story, but both of these books have this really nice matte feel to them. I don't know. I don't have any other books on my bookshelf that feel like these books, and I like them. I love them. 10 out of 10. Recommend. Okay, moving further down the line, we have Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This one was another 4.25 stars. I absolutely adored this book. This one, I'm not gonna lie, it wrecked me. Absolutely, completely wrecked me, but in a good way. So this book follows Macy and Elliot, who were childhood best friends, who drifted apart but reconnected years later. It is a second chance romance that jumps between past and present. It's emotional, sweet, and full of those moments that make you just want to hug the book or cry a little bit like I did. It is about love, it is about forgiveness, it is about timing, and all of it just hits so hard, but in the best way possible. I could not stop crying during the last few chapters of this book. It is just such a beautiful and emotional book, and I honestly felt like I went through 100 different emotions by the time I got to the end of it. If you love a romance that really tugs at your heartstrings but also feels super grounded and believable, this is the one for you. And since we're talking about Christina Lauren's, I'm just gonna talk really quickly about another book by them called In a Holidays. I gave this one 4.25 stars. It is such a fun and festive read. I read it in December and it was really lovely. This was actually my third book by Christina Lauren, and I feel like they very quickly climbed their way up to the top of my favorite romance authors list. Their writing is just so easy to read, it's super funny, and it's really heartfelt without feeling cheesy. This story in particular is one that has a time loop twist, so kind of like Groundhog's Day, but make it a festive romance. But don't let that scare you. It really doesn't repeat over and over and over again like you think it will. It handles the time loop twist very well. There did seem to be a setup for a love triangle trope, which had me very stressed out, but it worked itself out. It didn't break my heart the way that I thought it would, so that's good. And I just love that it balances cute romance with great friendships and family moments, and it has just enough of that holiday magic that makes it a perfect read for December. So the last two books I don't have physical copies of yet, but we're still going to talk about them. So next up is Something More by Jackie Kalilier, and I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it was the cutest YA book I have read in such a long time. 5 stars, no question about it. The story follows Jessie, who is a quirky Palestinian-Canadian teen navigating her first year of high school while also processing an autism diagnosis. So she's figuring out friendships and romance and how to accept herself all at the same time, and it is all just so very heartfelt and relatable. This one made my heart feel so full, and it really reminded me why I love YA so much. The main character felt so genuine and awkward in the best way, and I found myself smiling at the smallest things. It was very cute. It's light and heartwarming, but also touches on deeper themes that made me tear up a little bit. So if you're craving something that is sweet but meaningful, I would say that this one is a must read. Last but certainly not least is The Dead Poet Society by Nancy H. Kleinbaum, and it was just 5 stars. Honestly, I was completely destroyed by this book. I mean, if you have seen the movie, then you already know what you're in for, but reading this was a whole other experience. It is a powerful story that follows a group of students at a strict all-boys school whose lives change when their new English teacher, Mr. Keating, inspires them to think for themselves and embrace poetry. In that time, the boys revive a secret club, which ends up sparking self-discovery and rebellion. It is a story about passion, creativity, and breaking free from expectations, and I don't even know what else to say other than if you haven't read this or watched the movie, just prepare yourself. I literally sat in silence for a while after I finished it because I didn't know what to do with myself, and I believe Daniel took a video of me just crying reading the last few chapters. It was so emotional. I highly recommend, but just make sure that you are emotionally prepared for this. Okay, so that is it for all the books I couldn't stop thinking about in 2024. Let me know if you read any of these or if you have any other recommendations of books that stayed with you last year. Also, let me know what is on your radar for 2025 because I am always looking for new reads. Also, don't forget to check out my book club if you want to read along with me and some friends this year. It's called Nayeli's Cozy Corner, and I will leave all the information in the description. And if you want more bookish content, I am always posting reviews and TBRs over on Instagram, so you can follow me there at Life by Nayeli. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It really, really helps. And with all of that said, thanks so much for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Nope. Oh God. It is about a caseworker. It is about... Okay. Thought make into... It is what... What if he opens up a door and I can't close it? Yeah. Oh, wait. Fly? McFly! Think, McFly! It didn't record audio the last time I filmed it, so I have to do it all over again, so I hope you like it.